As the Mavericks get ready to resume their season tomorrow, what happens if this grandmaster plan of Nico Harrison fails, and what's next for Dallas? We'll discuss all that and more coming up next on the DLLS Mavs Podcast. Here we go. Hey, what's up, DLLS Mavs Nation? It's your man, Kevin Gray, alongside Mavericks beat writer Tim Cato, Mavericks analyst Bobby Corella. We are DLLS Mavs, your favorite guys covering your favorite team every single day. Really appreciate you joining us here on DLLS Sports. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe while you are here as well. You can do the same for our podcast wherever you get your podcast. It's free. Give it a 5-star rating and write a review for it while you're there. If Nico Harrison's grandmaster plan fails, what's next for Dallas as they resume their season tomorrow against the New Orleans Pelicans? Plus, a little bit later on in our show, we'll dial up the Stein line with our national NBA insider, Marc Stein, with the latest when it comes to the Mavericks and their injury situation going forward for the rest of the year. Gentlemen, on this terrific Thursday afternoon, trying to stay warm in these frigid Dallas conditions. How are we feeling today?
Oh, I'm feeling great. I feel warm. I've got long johns, leggings,
a
little liner, and then pants on over that. Yeah, no, I'm toasty.
Okay.
I ate an apple for breakfast, so I'm feeling good.
That's all you have for breakfast?
I also had one of those little bites that are like, oh, there's protein and stuff.
Okay.
So I'm feeling really nice.
Protein-filled Thursday for you.
Yep.
Got it. Tanner, how you feeling? Tanner's back.
I'm great. Yeah, great. Kind of glad to be back. I'm glad to be back with
Jesus,
you guys.
Wow,
dude.
glad to be back, Tanner?
Not the cold weather.
Yeah, well, we're
Okay.
kind of glad to have you back, too.
Yeah, I know, right? Jeez.
Well, no, I think we should be the bigger and better men, and we should say we're fully glad to have you back, Tanner, no matter how you feel about us.
Exactly.
We are not
We're
a
excited to
extremely
have you back.
excited to be here.
Okay, good.
Did that sound authentic?
That's refreshing.
Okay.
Tanner hates us.
That's what I think I got from that as well. Tanner just doesn't like us. I wouldn't either if I had to put up with us every single day either. But shout out to Tanner for doing it anyway. Here,
Tanner likes chat better than us.
the chat likes Tanner better than us. Actually, probably do as well. Speaking of that, but let's talk about your Mavericks. The Mavericks back on the practice floor as we speak right now, as the Mavericks get ready to take on the Pelicans tomorrow evening to resume the final 26 games of their regular season. But our first topic of the day, and we want you to let us know how you're feeling in the chat as well. If the Mavericks fail to win big this year, gentlemen, the simple question is, Bobby, what happens next for this Mavericks team?
Yeah, so as we laid out on yesterday's show, I think even the most optimistic reading of what could happen over the last couple months of the regular season, given the injuries, given everything that's going on, is that the Mavs are a play-in team. Maybe they make a push for the 6th seed. Maybe, if AD comes back and if Kyrie doesn't get hurt or whatever. But I think realistically speaking, they're probably going to be a play-in team, which means their odds of making it out of the first round, let alone all the way to the finals, are very, very long. Not to say it's impossible, not to say it won't happen, but the team's stated goal is to win the championship. PJ Washington is on record. Nico Harrison is on record after the trade saying defense wins championships. That's what they want. That is their plan. Now, normally, whenever you as a team fail to achieve your goal, changes are made. Sometimes to the front office, sometimes to the coach, sometimes to the players. Given, though, the injury situation, given the magnitude of the trade, given the backlash, I don't know that any changes will be made on that front, simply because I think they need to give the team like an honest chance to see what, like, it wouldn't make any sense to allow this trade to happen and then to just be like, no, all y'all are out of here and clean house. Like, I think everybody's coming back unless I'm wrong. But I think that's I think any changes that would be made would probably be to the roster, not necessarily to the power structure.
Yeah, I think that's far and away the likeliest scenario. I mean, if there is a personnel change, it feels likelier it would be Jason Kidd than Nico Harrison. But I'm not reporting that. That's just speculation based off, where everything stands right now. But yeah, it's going to be a very similar roster. And the question is, I think that over Nico Harrison's tenure, we have seen him be a very reactionary person. He reacts to what he's seeing on the court, and he tries to make, improve the roster in those ways. When Dallas went to the NBA Finals and they couldn't make a 3-point shot above the break, how did he react? Nico Harrison went out and got, Klay Thompson, possibly the second best shooter of all time. When this team was spiraling because Luka couldn't stay on the court this season, he traded Luka. So again, I am talking about Nico Harrison and his philosophy when it comes to building teams, building rosters. I think this goes all the way back to the conference finals, where he realized that Luka alone, that the role players had to be able to do more with the ball in their hands, and it couldn't all be on Luka. And in that run, it was Jalen Brunson. Later on, it was Kyrie Irving, and he built a team that was more delicate and balanced. So the question is, Dallas has been in this situation before, and they have missed the playoffs completely in 2023. And what they really badly, desperately needed was a really competent defensive center who paired well with Luka and their pick and roll game offensively. And Dallas was able to do that. And they were only able to do that because they're so bad that they had a draft pick, and there was an exact type of player to kind of fit that role, fit that need in the lottery. If Dallas makes the play-in, and especially with the Wemby news that just came out, and the Suns still not putting it together, and how Dallas has been really feisty, I think they're going to be a play-in team. But I'm not sure they're going to be a 7th or 8th seed playoff team. I'm not sure they're going to be able to avoid a first-round matchup against the Thunder, if they even make it through those play-in games, which, because they're just one-off, win or go home type style games, there's so much randomness and variation that you could just lose and your season could end there. So my question is, what are we going to see the rest of the season? Are we going to see enough to have a good sense of how Nico Harrison is going to be reactionary based off the roster he now has and has, that he went out and owned and put together himself?
I think the last big trade they made, the last big, whoa, shocker trade they made was during that 21-22 year whenever they traded KP to the Wizards.
The one before Luka is what you're saying.
Right, yeah.
I mean, I think Kyrie was that too, but I know what you're saying. You're saying
Well, when they're sending out big name for less,
okay,
is what I'm trying to say. And when they did that, it was very clear at the time. I think they might have even said this, I don't remember, but it was very clear to folks that wanted to intuit what was going on that this was kind of like the first of multiple moves. In chess, there's this thing called, I can't say the word because I'm not German, Zwischenzug, or intermezzo, or in-between move, right? You're gonna
We did ask Dirk to come back on the show for a second guest appearance, just to pronounce that, but
he declined.
Yeah, give me a hand in the chat if you're fluent in German. But you and your opponent both know what you're gonna do, but before you do the thing, you got to do something else first. Like, I'm gonna take your pawn over here, and now I'm gonna attack your bishop. Trading KP was an in-between thing because they took this large salary, turned it into 2 smaller salaries. A year later, they turned Bertans into the Lively pick, and then they later turned Spencer Dinwiddie into Kyrie Irving as part of that trade. Now, trading Luka for AD, there is no in-between, but what they did get was a pick, and then it also is kind of clear based on reporting, now how true that was or not, there was reporting that the Mavs were interested in KD. I believe that. I believe every team is interested in Kevin Durant, but I do believe the Mavs are very interested in acquiring KD, and getting another first-round pick is a good way to do that. There are certain restrictions that they're up against this summer as Kyrie becomes a free agent, potentially. As it stands right now, going into the summer, the Mavs have less than $15 million separating them from the second apron. If Kyrie gets a raise on what is a $43, $44 million player option, you get much closer to that. If you use that pick, you get even closer to that. So I don't know necessarily that going super big star, ultra mega hunting is viable or realistic unless they give out a lot of money. And I'm talking more money than they take in. because you simply cannot afford to get to the second A. It's just untenable, especially given what you're going to have to give up in order to get KD or a big star. But I do believe firmly, based on the very, very low likelihood of them advancing into the playoffs. However, if they do, very high likelihood that they're going to face OKC.
Sure.
They will learn if this team can contend with OKC. And if it can, maybe they don't have to make wholesale changes. If it can't, maybe they do. But I really strongly believe that the Mavs' next move is going to be a massive swing for somebody. Maybe it's an overpay, maybe it's not. But I think they have a one-track mind on adding a dude that is already booked to be in the Hall of Fame. Like, I think that's the only thing that they want to do, because Nico has said the only thing that matters the next 3 years.
And if that's the case, the amount of pressure that would be on this organization to win a championship in the immediate future grows that much more. And if you're going to go that kind of star hunting, Hall of Fame hunting, potentially this summer, what does that mean for the long-term future of this team as well? Because we're talking about names that, if you're going to go down that route, I would imagine you're including names like a PJ Washington, like a Derek Lively. You're talking about some pieces that you have felt good about over the last year and a half.
Potentially.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Potentially that you may have to part with in order to acquire that level of superstar. And if you're going to do that, you are now putting immense pressure, not only on the players that you bring in, but in the immediate future, the kind of resources that you have in order to make even marginal moves to get you that much closer to winning a championship. So whatever happens between now and the end of the year and the end of the summer is going to have massive long-term effects, like the Doncic trade already hasn't, but it's going to have massive long-term effects on this team's ability to build that much more into the future if Nico Harrison is even presumed to be around here by the time you get to the end of that competitive 2 or 3 or 4 year window that he's talked about.
I mean, we're talking about an accelerated timeline, though. Like, I mean, KD is on the extreme end of that as someone that's already been in the league for 18 years now.
Klay Thompson's on your roster at 35 years old already. He's
Time
on that
flies.
part.
Now, there are really good players that you could trade for that aren't 35, that are 30 or 28, but even still, this is a 2-3 year deal.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and I don't necessarily think that. I mean, I do think shortening your window is bad. You should always try and maximize your window. But if you've said our window is this, then I have no problem with doing everything you can to try and maximize your window if it's this. Like, it doesn't make sense now at this point for the Mavs to try a 2-timeline thing. It just doesn't. You're not the Warriors. You're not developing Kuminga and Wiggins and all these guys. You were going all in right now, today. And so this summer, I mean, I'm not trying to trade Derek Lively. Honestly, I'm not trying to trade Max Christie either. But the Mavs have players on their team that aren't named Derek Lively or Max Christie that they could trade for a really good player along with picks. I don't know if that's the case. I don't know if that's the goal, but that's what I think is the goal. That's my read right now.
Let's get to one of our super chats here on our show before we take our first break, and let's get to Sarah with the $1.99 super chat.
Let's go, Sarah.
If they trade PJ, I will literally, figuratively die. No, we need you around, Sarah, so please don't do that.
PJ is probably, I mean, Kyrie is obviously super high up there too, but PJ might be the most popular Mav now among the fan base. I would say it's either him or Kyrie.
Lively.
Interesting. How about Max Christie?
How about the hell it might be Max Christie at the moment?
Whose Q score is the highest right now?
Probably Max Christie.
I think it's Derek Lively. When I did a fan poll over the summer, Derek Lively was the favorite non-Luka Mav after his rookie season. And, you know, I think the way he plays, his story, I think all of that contributes to just the fact that he's beloved by the fan base. Obviously, his absence, not being around and being as visible probably affects that a little bit. But, yeah, I think it's Lively.
Okay. Well, we should put that as a poll. Tammy, you might throw that in the poll. Who's your favorite non-Kyrie Mav, I guess, now that...
No. Kyrie's got to be in there. I'm
Kyrie's
curious because I mean, we said who's your favorite non-Luka Mav, and
That's
PJ
true.
won over Kyrie, which
That's
is
true.
really surprising.
Yeah.
But
So just who's your favorite Mav right now? We'll just
yeah, who's your favorite Mav?
Yeah, let's throw that in the chat. Let's see how you guys vote on that. Coming up next year on the DLLS Mavs podcast. So with that being the case, as the Mavs resume their season, what is Nico Harrison's potential grandmaster plan here, depending on what happens for the rest of the regular season? We'll dive into more of that coming up next year on the DLLS Mavs podcast.
But first, the NFL draft is coming up. I'm scouting I'm scouting on Sleeper for who I'm going to take in all my dynasty leagues. Of course, the best fantasy league platform out there, but I'm also scouting for what I'm going to do when basketball fires up. Whatever we saw last night was not real basketball. Tonight, real basketball. Tomorrow, Mavs basketball, so it's even more back. And I'm going to be putting my ball knowledge to the test by picking whether my favorite or least favorite players will have more or less in their projected stats each and every night. With Sleeper, the more picks you combine, the more you can win, all the way up to 100 times your money. And better yet, the app keeps you in the loop with instant alerts for breaking news and major injuries, so you can stay ahead of the game, keep track of all this stuff in real time, so you're always informed and ready to outsmart your friends. If you think you have what it takes, new users can download the Sleeper app. Use the code DLLS Mavs to get $55 in free entries when you place a $5 contest. You can apply it to any contest. Doesn't have to be your first. Currently operational in over 25 states, including Texas. Check out Sleeper today.
And with that money you win on Sleeper, you can buy yourself a nice pair of Shady Rays. Get ready for the season ahead with quality shades built to last. Our friends at Shady Rays have you covered with premium polarized shades that won't break the bank. Shady Rays is an independent sunglasses company offering a world-class product rated 5 stars by over 300,000 people. Their shades have durable frames and crystal clear optics, making them the perfect choice for all of your outdoor adventures. Hundreds of options to choose from as well, so you're bound to find the perfect pair to match your style. They probably have a pair in your favorite team's colors as well. If you need to find yourself blocking your eyes from the sun or bad basketball these days, you can use Shady Rays to do so exclusively. For our listeners, Shady Rays is giving out their best deal of the season. Head to shadyrays.com and use code DLLS for 35% off polarized sunglasses. Try for yourself the shades rated 5 stars by over 300,000 people. Again, go to Shady Rays and use code DLLS for 35% off your polarized sunglasses today.
J.K. Kelly asks, why is Kyler Kelly not an option on the poll? That is a good question. Tanner could only fit 4 names, though.
Plus Kyler Kelly's in witness protection, so we can't find him.
Also,
anyway.
J.K. Kelly, what is your relation to Kyler?
Oh, that's a good point. Same last name.
If you're Kyler Kelly, dude, come on the show. We would love to have you, honestly.
Yeah.
He probably wouldn't after I just made that witness protection joke.
That's why you should never make jokes like that.
We like to keep it entertaining here on the DLLS Mavs podcast. So does Nico Harrison when it comes to trades, apparently. What is next when it comes to this team? Is he setting up another big move this upcoming summer, I should say, as the Mavericks resume their schedule tomorrow, taking on the Pelicans, and they play the final 26 games of the season. If you missed the breaking news across the NBA, Victor Wembanyama is going to be out for the rest of the regular season, I should say, with deep vein thrombosis in his right shoulder. So unfortunately for the San Antonio Spurs, Victor Wembanyama is going to be lost for the rest of the regular season. The Mavericks are going to be seeing the Spurs on the road on March 10th and 12th in San Antonio. And unfortunately, they will not be seeing Victor Wembanyama for those couple of games. But as we were already into discussion when it comes to this team and potential moves that could be made, Tim, is this team being set up by Nico Harrison for another big move potentially this upcoming summer, given what this team has and trying to get as healthy as they can as they try to make a playoff push here?
Yeah, so when Dallas missed the playoffs entirely 2 years ago, they went out and got Grant Williams. They got Derek Lively, and that was a huge need for the team. But they also got Grant Williams, and as much as Grant Williams was, it didn't work. It was a failed transaction, and they gave up a pick swap, I believe, for it, which, just another thing being, another draft asset being sent out. It is interesting when you think about Grant Williams that basically Grant Williams was the idea of what P.J. Washington has been for Dallas, where he has been the undersized, or not really undersized. P.J. is absolutely power forward sized, but like an undersized big who does a lot of big stuff and also has the ability to knock down shots, like pretty competent offensive player. That was the idea with Grant Williams, and Dallas and Nico Harrison finally corrected that by getting P.J. Washington. Now, thought that Kyle Kuzma could be that player, and I'm not sure that's the case. But, certainly eventually fixed that misstep. So the question is, let's say what feels like a quite possible scenario plays out, where Dallas is the 9th seed or the 8th seed. They end up with the 8th overall seed, and they face the Thunder in the first round. Obviously, Oklahoma City would be the team that's favored, and so much of it depends on the health. Honestly, if this team's fully healthy, if all the big men come back when they're supposed to, I'm not writing them off now It's just way too early to really have a good sense of what that's going to look like. But if Dallas loses, what do you think the takeaways from that series would be? Why would they lose? And what? Because if we can kind of think about those takeaways, and again, we're super hypothetical, thinking way ahead into a future that is very distant at this point due to the Mavs injury concerns. But if we know why they might fail, then we can intuit what Nico Harrison would be trying to do that summer. And basically what I'm saying is Kevin Durant, the fix for Kyrie Irving being double teamed and not being effective as the lead creator. Because I think that's the likeliest thing that would happen if you ended up in a first round series or any series against Oklahoma City Thunder and lost. That's where Dallas would have difficulties.
Maybe. I think if this team's failure is due to Kyrie being double teamed in any series, but especially against a team like OKC because they are so ravenous. They're ravenous beasts out there.
And they have beat the Thunder this year with just Kyrie on the court. So
3 times.
Yeah.
Actually, as a matter of fact. But even if they could play the Nuggets and lose, they could play the Clippers and lose, they could play whoever else, the Rockets and lose. But if their demise is due to Kyrie's being double teamed, then one response would be we need a guy that commands the same level of attention or a similar amount of attention to where you can't double team. It would just compromise you too much. Or more ball handling, more like competent ball handling, guys that can make quicker decisions. Because you think of, okay, like Najee is supposed to be that. PJ was supposed to get better at that. Klay demands attention, but if he's being face guarded, then what is he doing? Spencer Dinwiddie takes a little too long. Dante in the playoffs sometimes could lack some confidence. So maybe it's you need more sure ball handling, which even outside of beyond Luka's scoring ability was just super valuable. It's really hard to double team one because the other can make the decisions, So it could be that. But it is kind of an interesting way, and we're putting the cart before the horse obviously right now, but like whenever you're thinking about team building in a video game, and I don't just mean like NBA 2K, I think any kind of game, you're thinking about, okay, what kind of qualities is this team missing in roles where you have in games where you have roles like defender, attacker, tank, or whatever. The Mavs have a lot of defense, they have a lot of size, they have a lot of length. I think this is a more athletic team now after the trade deadline than it was before. What are they missing? I think it's ball handling and scoring. If you can find someone that can do both, then that's great, I guess. But how do you go out and sign a guy or acquire a guy that can dribble and score and make decisions without then creating a bunch of other holes? Sure. Like I don't know if that's possible.
And that's why a player like Kevin Durant and a player like Anthony Davis kind of makes up for the fact, like if you just accept that your lead ball handler is going to be Kyrie Irving, and you're not going to be able to get a better player than that as your lead ball handler because there's only like 10 in the NBA and they're not available.
That's what we thought.
That's
right,
what we thought.
Exactly.
But there's only like 10 in the NBA who are better than Kyrie as a lead ball handler. And if that becomes an issue, the way that you kind of could work around it is not adding another guy who can help relieve pressure. It's just adding these isolation scorers who have to be accounted for. And so, it's not beautiful flowing offense, but if you throw the ball into Kevin Durant 20 feet from the rim, you feel good that he's either going to get a good shot out of it or he's going to, have a double forced his way. And so it's not going to be smooth flowing, guard-led pick and roll attacks. And at times it's going to look a little chunky trying to initiate that stuff. But as long as you have finishing options if you can just get the ball to them, then you feel good that your offense is going to be efficient at that point. Then it doesn't all have to be guard-led. I guess I think that's something that would help, and then you lean on the defense.
Yeah, you're kind of building a team that's built to compete like 15 years ago, where you dump it down, not even dump it down in the post like 90s style, but just like give it to dude, clear floor, let him go to work. I'm not sure that works super well. Granted, every series is its own universe, but the Suns did get swept last year, and Booker and KD are maybe two of the best isolation scorers that we've seen like in 20 years. but they shoot a lot of twos. It's really hard to outscore teams whenever you're shooting a lot of twos. An AD, 2-guy. Kevin Durant, 2-guy. Kyrie can shoot threes, but depending on what you're having to trade, unless you have to trade Klay for KD.
That's true.
But also, then you're getting old, and one of Phoenix's other struggles is you load up on all these guys making huge salaries, and then you can't build a team around them. And again, with all the financial restrictions in place, like if the Mavs give Kyrie a raise, he's deserving of it. We'll see how big of a raise he gets. But if they do, and then go get another guy that's making $50+ million, just those 3 players alone is more than the cap. You're already over the cap.
Yeah.
It's really hard to sign anybody but minimums without getting into second apron territory. And if you get in the second apron, then you're kind of boned.
Yeah, and I think that's what, as you guys have been describing this, it's what really has confused me about the direction that they decided to go in, given the new restrictions with the second aprons and the way the teams have to construct their rosters. It really forces teams in a lot of ways not only to keep certain guys in terms of their homegrown talent, but also you've got to find cheap young talent that can be cost controlled for years to come, and then supplement that with maybe 1 or 2 superstars, or at this case, it feels like 1.
They did do that, though. They did. Max Christie, cost-controlled. Caleb Martin, cost-controlled. Jaden Hardy, cost-controlled, although I think he's probably traded this summer.
But you traded the 25-year-old superstar in exchange for the now about to be 32-year-old one, who in a lot of ways can't stay healthy. And I think that part there, I think it's kind of hard to to put together. It's like, okay, you kind of did the thing, but you also cut yourself off at the knees in another way by acquiring a player for another type of identity, especially on the defensive end when it comes to Anthony Davis, if he's going to be healthy on the floor, along with Daniel Gafford and Derek Lively.
If it is just spreadsheeting, though, that we're doing, like, AD does make a lower number than Luka's extension would have.
And his is about to kick in at the beginning of this upcoming season. It's a 3-year, $175 million extension.
That's still a lot of money.
Yeah, that's about to kick in at the beginning of this upcoming season. Yeah,
but like I don't know. I think this might have been a nothing move in the grand scheme of things, but trading Quentin Grimes on an expiring for Caleb Martin, who was making more than Grimes now, but Grimes will probably be making more than Caleb Martin after he gets a contract this summer, was just it was interesting to me, because making that trade put a lot of restrictions on what they can do. Like, after a 10-day contract, they now have 4 days of service they can offer someone at the end of the year.
Right.
And so it is just kind of interesting that they opted for that route. It makes me think, like, it just, like, it got my little radar pinging. Like, why are they taking on a modest contract for multiple years in the future? It just feels like something is happening.
Yeah. And another scenario, if let's say Dallas does get healthy at the end of the year and they are able to play a playoff series with a starting front court of Lively, Anthony Davis, and PJ Washington. What if, and then it would be Kyrie and Klay, and probably a lot of Max Christie instead of Klay, just because you need somebody to guard the perimeter. What if PJ Washington ends up looking very redundant as the 3 next to those 2? That you look at Lively and you look at Anthony Davis, and you're like, this actually works together. One of them on the court at all times, but we like the way that both of them look together. PJ Washington's best trait is as the 4, basically acting as a pseudo big man who can come over and help and block shots and be a rim protector. And if you're really, obviously you're building this team around Anthony Davis as well as Kyrie. So that's a, and theoretically, ideally, you're also building this team around Lively. So can you commit the other 2 spots to a player who kind of functions better as a big man and isn't really a point of attack defender in PJ Washington? Really good player, great fit for what the team was. It's quite possible like that's a reactionary move if PJ Washington just doesn't fit that well. If he's not, if he's not allowed to play to his strengths defensively just because of the lineup constructions, if he's not allowed to play to his strengths, and then, you're already having spacing concerns with Anthony Davis and Derek Lively, and PJ Washington, he can be a streaky shooter. I could see a scenario, if we're trying to think of how a healthy Dallas losing in the playoffs would lead to Nico Harrison shifting the team, is that PJ Washington is fully expendable. Again, a lot of hypotheticals to get to that point. But
that's the thing, though. It's theory crafting on their part, too, because they're not going to be healthy. It would be great if they could see this.
and that's yeah, genuinely. I think that's the overarching thing, is that because we've seen Nico be so reactionary and use what's happening on the court to react and change the roster largely effectively a lot of the times, how much is it going to hurt if Dallas just doesn't get healthy and doesn't get an actual test case scenario of what this team is on the court this season? Because there's only so many more years you haven't in this.
Yeah, what you're getting is on media day. Well, Anthony Davis is like a free agent addition. It's like, it's like we got Derek Lively in free agency.
Because again, remember, like, it is literally just as likely he is out for the year than not. That's our best understanding of this injury right now.
And that's the assumption I've been operating on since the initial injury for him. What it feels like 2 years ago, which is 12 days ago at this point. So there's a lot still more to come with this team, obviously, not only for the rest of the regular season, but what that means for them going into what is going to be, I'm sure, a dramatic offseason for this team as well. Coming up next year on the DLLS Mavs podcast, we welcome in our National NBA insider, Marc Stein, as we dial up the Stein line with the latest on the injury front for the Dallas Mavericks and their newest signing as well. All that and more coming up next on the DLLS Mavs podcast.
Started by two college friends, Saturday Neon makes officially licensed collegiate logo LED neon signs perfect for your home, office, dorm room, fan cave, or bar. Check out their new Essentials collection featuring almost 50 of the biggest schools around the country and starting at only $75. They've got Texas A&M, Texas Tech, Oklahoma, Oklahoma State, and many more from around the entire country. But just wanted to focus on a few of the colleges around the DFW area. Unlike traditional neon, these LED signs won't break or shatter. They still give you that classic uniform glow that you know and love. LEDs last up to 100,000 hours, so you'll be enjoying your sign for years to come. They're also super easy to install using provided hardware. They're low voltage. They're the perfect gift for any occasion. Head over to SaturdayNeon.com and use code DLLS for 10% off your favorite sign.
Let's talk to you about Rugged Road Coolers. Rugged Road is dedicated to creating innovative and durable outdoor gear for adventurers who demand the best. Our products are designed with the highest quality materials and craftsmanship, ensuring they perform in the toughest conditions, whether you're on land or water. Rugged Road gear is built to accompany you on every adventure. Crafted to handle the toughest environments, their coolers are built to last, ensure they keep up with any adventure. Their coolers are guaranteed to keep their contents cool for up to 7 days as well, but oftentimes much longer than that. They're perfect for a variety of outdoor activities as well. From fishing to tubing to camping and tailgating, these coolers are designed to meet the needs of every outdoor or sports enthusiast. So make sure that you gear up for your next adventure with Rugged Road Coolers. They're reliable, durable, and built to be used as well. Rugged Road is your ultimate outdoor companion. Head to ruggedroadoutdoors.com and use code DLLS for 10% off. Again, ruggedroadoutdoors.com. Use code DLLS for 10% off your Rugged Road Coolers today. As we welcome in our national NBA insider, Marc Stein here, we dial up the Stein line on the DLLS Mavs podcast. You can find him on X at the Stein line. Marc, how we doing on this afternoon on Thursday?
We are okay. I hope we have no issues. I hope I sound all right. Little bit, not quite the setup that I was anticipating, but hopefully our chat and discussion overrides how it looks.
Well, you look good, sound good, repping Cal State Fullerton as always. So we appreciate you repping your alma mater here on this afternoon. Let's just jump into it. Obviously, before we get to the Mavericks, around the NBA, the news coming from the San Antonio Spurs that Victor Wembanyama going to be out for the rest of the regular season. Deep vein thrombosis in his right shoulder, unfortunately, will have him out for the rest of the regular season.
I mean, obviously, I think the whole league right now is stunned. It's a very somber, this is supposed to be the day. Obviously, we had a game last night with the Lakers and Hornets, but, Thursday after All-Star Weekend is really the day that the stretch run starts in earnest and everybody's really back to work. And this is just such scary news, really. A deep vein thrombosis issue is nothing to mess with. None of us are doctors, but I think we all understand that that's a blood clot. And, you just do not mess with that in any way, shape, or form. And, our good friend Jeff Stotts from In Street Clothes tweeted out the reminder that, Brandon Ingram was sidelined late in a season several years ago in a similar circumstance with DVT diagnosed in the shoulder area and caused him to miss, I think, 19 games in that instance. Maybe it was, I shouldn't say season ending because I don't remember exactly what time of the year that happened for Ingram, but you guys can probably call Jeff's tweet up. I think he said it was Ingram missed 19 games in that circumstance. But, the Spurs are, we know the Spurs have been through, just an absolutely frightful season on the health side of things with obviously what happened to Greg Popovich very early in the season, and Greg Popovich still has not been able to make the return that the Spurs have said he's still trying to complete. And now for their star, their face of the franchise, to have to basically end his season like this without warning. Very somber Thursday in the NBA. I don't think there's any question.
Yeah, and a blood clot means blood thinners, and you just don't play professional basketball on blood thinners. You don't do, high impact, high variance activities, physical activities on blood thinners. It's obviously something that a lot of players have had and come back from. But also, if Wemby's not out there, certainly I think San Antonio coming out of the break was looking to make a playoff push to see if there's any chance they could get back into the mix. No matter when this issue is healed up with Wembanyama, which hopefully, will be sooner than later. But if he's gonna miss any time at all, I think San Antonio is realistic that they can put aside any hopes at getting back into the play-in picture. And so at that point, just rule him out for the season. So I guess what my one point here is that him being ruled out for the season is not necessarily a indicator of seriousness or even how long it's going to last. It's just that if he's going to be out for a month, then San Antonio's not making the play-in anyway. So at that point, ruling him out for the year is just a logical move to make with this serious but treatable condition.
As we are joined by our National NBA insider, Marc Stein, you can dial up the Stein line at the Stein line. Let's move it to the Mavericks front with respect to their injuries. They get back on the floor tomorrow to take on the New Orleans Pelicans. Hopefully some help in the form of P.J. Washington would be on the way for the Mavericks as he's been dealing with a right ankle sprain.
Yeah, look, the word I got yesterday was the Mavericks are hopeful that based on how practice goes today, that P.J. Washington can make his return to the lineup tomorrow night against New Orleans. The Mavs were scheduled to practice at noon today, so obviously all of us are engaged with this podcast. I'm going to take the bold leap that they're still on the floor. We'll have media availability later today, and I assume that a question about P.J. Washington's status will be high on the list for Jason Kidd. And then you saw the Mavs did, as we touched on yesterday, they did formally sign Moses Brown to a 10-day deal today. That had to happen today rather than game day because Moses Brown wouldn't have been able to practice today if he wasn't actually signed to a deal. The Mavs brought him in yesterday to basically audition him, take a look, a first-hand look. They've had Moses Brown here before, so they're very familiar with his game. But, the Mavs are in this very tight financial situation where they only have 14 days worth of salary that they can use to stay underneath the first apron. And so basically they were trying to time this as well as they could to sign Moses Brown to a 10-day. Starts today. He'll get games in, as many games as you can in this 10-day stretch. And that's really all they can afford at this point. They obviously do not want to hit the first apron. So, this is really all they could do in the face of their big man crisis. Because again, Gafford, at least we have an idea. We know that the estimated timeline for Gafford is 6 weeks, which basically takes him out for the rest of the regular season. But when it comes to both Anthony Davis and Derek Lively, even the Mavericks cannot tell you a specific date when they expect either one of those guys back. So they knew they needed more size. They need someone who can give them 8 to 10 minutes a game with some size. And so Moses Brown is the next one to get that opportunity.
Also, the Mavericks have, of course, acquired Caleb Martin as part of the couple of trades that they made. Where are we in terms of him and his hip injury as he tries to get closer to making his debut for the Mavericks?
I would love to tell you guys that there's a latest on Caleb Martin. I'm still chasing it. Maybe today when Jason Kidd holds media availability, maybe there's some further clarity there, but it wouldn't surprise me. If not, as I think I mentioned to you guys before, when the trade was made, the Mavericks had the opportunity, had they wanted, they could have voided the deal. But they went ahead and did the deal. The Sixers agreed to add a second-round pick to the trade, and the Mavericks felt like getting that second-round pick and waiting for Caleb Martin was better than the alternative, better than voiding the deal like we saw the Lakers do with Mark Williams. But I was told at that time that, it could be weeks before they had him back. And so, the Mavericks have not offered any kind of timetable on Caleb Martin. We're still chasing that one. I do have more of an update on Dwight Powell that I can share. So when Dwight Powell suffered this hip injury, the early anticipation was not that he would miss 14 games. Something has clearly happened to slow his recovery here. But I was told he was already back in Dallas yesterday, is working 1-on-1, 2-on-2 level speed. So he is not yet playing full speed 5-on-5 basketball. So exactly when Dwight Powell can return, we still don't have clarity on that, but at least now he is trending back in the right direction. But again, a 14-game absence for Dwight Powell, that was not what was foreseen when he first got hurt. So it's just, when it comes to the front court, it has just been one thing after another, and that's why the Mavs felt like they had to go out and sign someone to a 10-day to bring some more size in here.
That would kind of explain why they would use the 10-day right now then, Mark. Like if Dwight is starting to slowly kind of ramp up, then maybe their expectation for him to be back kind of aligns with that 10th day.
Yeah, like I said, I was told he's back in Dallas. He was back yesterday, already doing 1-on-1, 2v2 kind of stuff. But that doesn't make him game ready. So he's still got a ways to go there.
Yeah, the 10-day for Moses Brown, it's going to be 5 games. They're going to have him available for 5 games. Obviously, as we've said, you can't sign him. Giannis Stopper. Maybe that's it. Sign him today. He gets to practice today. But even if you had waited until tomorrow, because the contract is starting today, the 10th day falls on a game day. If you had signed him tomorrow, it would not have allowed him to play another game. The 10th day would have fallen on an off day following a game. So either way, the scenario Dallas had was 5 games with Moses Brown. There's no way to kind of wiggle and finagle another way to get another game out of him based off this contract, which is the only contract that they had available to sign him to. So yeah, hopefully for the Mavericks' sake, Dwight Powell is indeed back following that.
Can they sign him to a 4-day contract afterward, Mark? Or does it have to be a 10-day?
That was good. I mean, that was good. That's my professional LOL. That was good. Can I ask you guys a question?
I'm actually wondering, can't they?
I don't know.
They cannot. No, they cannot. You can only sign 10 days.
So like 10 days just guaranteed the whole way? Anyway, sorry. You go ahead, Mark.
I get a lot of grief for my mic, which is very easy to travel with, and I like it. So I'm holding it closer. Do I sound okay? Is my sound?
So you can hold it, Mike, and I can't.
Oh my God.
I'm it because I have to. Now it's heavy. I don't want to. I'd rather it be in the cradle, but I'm trying to sound a little better because I've heard that when I keep the mic too far away from me, I have no desk where I am, so I'm improvising here.
You sound good. You sound good and looked good as well.
I can't see the chat. What are our friends saying? What
are my people saying?
What is vibe today on this beautiful Thursday?
Apparently, folks have been cutting up in the chat because Tanner's almost had to throw some people out of here.
Emotions are running high.
Yeah.
Emotions are still running high, Mark, as you can imagine.
I hope I haven't done anything to upset anyone.
Mark, what is your plan? So you're in an undisclosed location. You will be joining us though between now and then, but you'll definitely be joining us for the big one next week.
Yes, look, this was a long planned trip. I think it kind of proves that I had. Oh wait, there's just an Anthony Davis tweet. What does it say, guys? Read it. I can't see it. The Mavs just tweeted something about Anthony Davis. What is it?
Uh-oh.
That can't be good.
That can't be good. Let's see here.
Is making good progress. He will be evaluated. The Mavericks today announced that Mavericks forward center Anthony Davis, who suffered a left adductor strain on February 8th against Houston, is making good progress. Davis will be reevaluated in 2 weeks with further updates to follow as necessary.
Okay.
We'll know more later.
Right.
An official update. Yes.
Good progress.
So before we let our Marc Stein go here, yes, this coming from Mavericks PR as of less than 30 seconds to
Tanner, erase the first 2 segments. Finals, baby.
The Dallas Mavericks today announced that Mavericks forward center Anthony Davis, who suffered a left adductor strain on February 8th against Houston, is making good progress. Davis will be evaluated in 2 weeks with further updates to follow as
I would say
necessary.
That does not sound like a player who's playing in 2 weeks.
It doesn't matter.
It kind of does.
We got something to look forward to. More stuff 2 weeks from now.
Okay.
The
Mark
fact that it's not the announcement of a surgery
is cool, I guess.
No, that's positive. That's absolutely positive.
That's cool. Yeah.
But yeah, we'll see.
I think we've discussed this and talked clearly. They're going the non-surgical route to give him every chance to see if he can recover and come back. That's pursuing, and the fact that the team is willing to, put it in a statement, good progress. I mean, you have to take that as a hopeful sign, and we'll see where he is in 2 weeks. But Tim's exactly right. He's not playing in 2 weeks. He's got to be reevaluated in 2 weeks. And as I reported last week, it was just underlined to me, very cautious, very cautious. The Mavs and Davis's camp will be very cautious. They have to proceed cautiously because as much as there is riding on this season, I mean, it's more than this season. I mean, they need to have the Anthony Davis we saw in the first half on February 8th. The Dallas Mavericks need to see a lot of that Anthony Davis. And so whatever gets him to that point is the course they have to pursue.
Mark, we appreciate your time as always and look forward to our next conversation with you here on the DLLS Mavs Podcast.
We will talk about the rest of my logistics later, but I will be with you guys Friday pregame. And yes, Bobby, I will be with you guys Tuesday postgame, no matter what I have to do.
Let's go.
Appreciate it, man. We'll talk to you then.
Bye, guys.
That's our national NBA insider, Marc Stein, on the DLLS Mavs Podcast. Let's take our last break here on the DLLS Mavs Podcast. We'll react more to the news when it comes to Anthony Davis and the timetable that the Mavericks have discussed as we continue here on the DLLS Mavs Podcast.
But first, it's Die Hard time, baby! Shout out to Joshua, shout out to John, shout out to Maverick, strong name, and shout out to Philip for becoming diehards just yesterday. What is a diehard, you ask? Well, it's a member of our community here at DLLS Sports, and you can become one yourself by scanning, by kind of doing that way down there, or by clicking the link in the description below, or by going to alldlls.com/diehard. For a limited time, it's just $48 for a year. That averages out to about $4 a month. To become a diehard, when you sign up, you get a free shirt of your choosing. We got more than 30 shirts to choose from. We also got a St. Patrick's Day shirt. One of the shirts we have is a beer drinking beer. That's pretty meta. I don't know if that's cannibalism necessarily. That's why we can't show it, because that would void the TOS here on YouTube. But we also have some team theme shirts and just some DLLS shirts that you can choose from as well. When you become a diehard, you get a discount on all of the merch. You get a discount on live events. We got a golf tournament coming up, actually, that we're really excited to fully announce. I don't know if I'm supposed to be talking about it. You'll hear more about it later. And also, you get to read all the paywalled content on alldlls.com from folks like Tim Cato, who's going to be writing about this team, writing about Anthony Davis, maybe even writing about how that was the first piece of positive communication we've received from the Mavs organization in the calendar year of 2025. That's why I'm so excited, folks, because it wasn't bad news. We finally got neutral news, and you also get to join the Discord, and you get a physical diehard card. Look, folks, I don't need to tell you. There's so many reasons why you should become a diehard. Shout out to every single one of you who have. And for those of you who just want to keep hanging in chat, hey, shout out to you as well. And without further adieu, let's get back to Kevin Gray.
Let's get you caught up on the news when it comes to the Mavericks here as we finish up our show today. The Mavericks, of course, on the practice floor getting ready for the Pelicans tomorrow when they take on Zion Williamson and company in their first game since the All-Star break with 26 games to go in the regular season. This coming as of 5 minutes ago. If you missed the news, the Dallas Mavericks announcing today that Mavericks forward center Anthony Davis, who suffered the left adductor strain on February 8th against Houston, is making, quote, good progress. Davis will be reevaluated in 2 weeks with further updates to follow as necessary, which means he will miss at least the next 7 games, at least 7 more games when it comes to this particular injury. So, again, as Bobby and Tim have mentioned, news when it comes to Anthony Davis, some of the positive variety for this team. At least we have a little bit more in terms of proper evaluation for him going forward, which for Mavericks fans, that's all they've kind of been looking for since he suffered the injury 12 days ago.
It helps to have badass players on the court, and he's a badass player.
Yeah, and we've talked...
Changes the whole complexion of the season.
Yes, if he's able to return in this regular season, we've talked about it quite a bit. This season really hinges on the availability of Anthony Davis to be able to return to this lineup and then remain in this lineup going forward to be paired alongside Kyrie Irving, and hopefully with the addition of P.J. Washington coming back here soon as well, that this team is starting to get healthy as they get ready for this final 26 games down the stretch here.
Yeah, I mean, this team's built around AD now. It's built around AD and Kyrie. And again, what are we laughing at?
Hey, Tanner, do you want to put up your comment that you...
No, I'm laughing.
Oh, you're laughing at something else?
No, B-Money alleges that you're mad that the news was positive.
Oh,
I'm furious. Well, so B-Money, you got to realize if Anthony Davis is healthy, then Dallas might make a playoff run because there's still a really good team with him. That means we got to work more.
We're going to be doing 5 shows a week no matter what, Tim.
we're going to be working regardless.
We do this for the diehards.
I do want to put up Tanner's comment real quick because I thought that's what we were laughing at, because I definitely started laughing at that. Hey, Bobby just said something positive about AD, so there you go.
Oh, he's a great player.
Smiley face.
He's an awesome player. I mean, part of the reason we were so bummed whenever he got hurt is because, like, it just feels like if he's out for the season is meaningless. I mean, it's hard not to kind of like descend into just nihilism, honestly.
And he still might be, honestly.
He
like
still
that
could be,
update,
yeah.
that update.
The fact that they said good progress, though, like they didn't have to make a statement at all.
They hadn't made a statement.
They kind of had to.
They hadn't made a statement at all. It felt like
Yeah.
It felt like this statement was a delayed version of what they would have initially made after the injury, or like shortly after the injury.
That's fair.
And it was kind of delayed to at least get to the point that you could include good progress in there. It's quite possible it still doesn't go that direction. Like we've talked about this injury. You know, it's just it's a tough situation. It's tough for all sides, and it's tough for the chat because there are this entire trade is tough because it has fractured so many elements of the Dallas fan base. And there are people who want you to be more positive. Then there are people who are still upset about Luka, and there are people not tuning in, and there are people who think that the AD, Kyrie team needs to be focused on. But then how do we do that when the team's not actually on the court, when we can't actually watch them and analyze them? This is such a fractured situation. It's still a very tough situation. We're gonna keep talking about the team. That's what we're here for, and it's just it's going to be tough to talk about Anthony Davis when Anthony Davis is not on the court playing. So. That's kind of the situation as it stands right now.
There is this sort of feeling in the fan base, too, that and I mean, not just the fan base, we've kind of mentioned it. I don't know if we mentioned on mic, but we sort of feel this way that if they know that AD is going to be out, why should they come out and say they know AD is going to be out? I think fans kind of expect that the Mavs are going to kick the can down the road, let the dust settle a little bit, and then say, look, he's out for the season. I'm not being that conspiratorial about it, but from an optics standpoint, it certainly makes sense to just hold off on sharing the worst news ever. But, to say he's making good progress now feels like either he is making good progress or gaslighting in the highest degree. Again, I'm not going to be conspiratorial about it. I just think that he's probably making progress, but progress could be their baseline starting point was he's not going to play again this season, and now there's like, well, maybe there's a chance. Let's take a look again.
It could be that,
you don't know. You don't know.
I mean,
But again, from a team, I just need to say this. From a team that the last like 722,000 headlines about have been bad, for them to finally say one thing that's not awful is just like, oh my God.
Well,
It's
two
like,
things.
I want to do a little dancey dance.
Well, two things. They signed Moses Brown.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's, oh my God, a double dip. A double whammy of goodness. Fire up the Club Pop Pop song. It's time to dance.
I'm not even gonna engage in any
Dance party.
You opened the door a little bit for me, Bobby, because
It's too. The moment has passed.
it's okay.
It's fine.
It's fine.
I don't even care.
You kind of opened up the door for me because I think in some ways that's what's going on here. A little bit of professional gaslighting. Because I've said it before, I've said it on record, and I will say it again. I will operate under the assumption that until I see Daniel Gafford, Anthony Davis, and Derek Lively II on the floor together, I'm operating under the assumption that I will not see them again for the rest of the regular season. Which, again, if that's the case, that's fine. It is what it is at this point, and the Mavericks will have to adjust from there. But something at least neutral in terms of news from this team is better than nothing at all, because we have been waiting to see some kind of official update instead of it being leaving it up to the air and chance for speculation. So there is something there, but the Mavericks have to continue to forge on and play with the guys that are available to them, and that starts tomorrow night against the New Orleans Pelicans. When you look at the games that Anthony Davis, based off of the timeline that has been offered here, he will miss the games against the Pelicans, the Warriors, the Lakers, Hornets, Bucks, Kings, and then the Bucks again. Those are games February 21st through March the 5th. So that kind of gives you a timeline of the games that he will be missing.
No, he's going to miss more than that too. Because
I'm just saying
it's going to take, like Mark was saying about Dwight, he's just not doing one-on-one 2v2 stuff. AD is, you're sitting down, buddy. Like, I don't even know if, I don't think he's able to do any sort of anything. So even if it's 2 weeks from today and they're like, oh my God, this might be a miracle. He's still going to need another week or two to get out there, practice, condition, get up to speed and all that stuff. And then, of course, you run the risk of re-aggravation.
Do a lot of conditioning with this type of injury.
Yeah, so
it's really tough. It's a really tough one to suffer. And
so it's probably best case scenario that St. Patrick's Day week, 17th through the 21st of March. Like, if 2 weeks from now it's like, oh my God, he's able to return. So it's still, a month, probably, if best case scenario. But that's not the end of the season, and unfortunately with the Wemby news, like, the Spurs might not be much of a factor anymore. A lot could change between that. Maybe they win anyway. Who knows? But if all you have to do is fend off one team and not two, you can fend off one team for a month. It's possible. And if he comes back a month from now, you have enough time to win some games between now and the end of the year to catch the team if they pass you or whatever. So like there's a little, do you see this?
There's a glimmer.
It's a little tiny glimmer of hope. Just a little tiny glimmer of hope.
And let me be very clear, B-Money. This is not a gimmick. This is exactly how I feel, and I will stand on 100% of the business that comes out of my mouth. So this is not a gimmick. This is not for play. This is not for showtime. That's exactly how I feel. You can agree with it or disagree with it. Be my guest, but that's exactly how I feel. So
glasses didn't even come down. I'm shocked you didn't bring the glasses down.
No, it needed. I don't need to do that. I look good with my glasses on my face. So
you've taken them down before. Was that only one time?
That's what
Was that just the Dinwiddie?
Reserved for special times. Yeah, for special times.
That did completely change the vibes of the team, though.
I mean, they ripped off 14, 17 after that, something like that. It was good times at that point. But yeah,
take them off.
No,
take them off.
Before we go, thank you to our television audience for joining us here on the DLLS Mavs podcast. But yeah, that's how I feel. I hope they prove me wrong. I want every last one of these dudes to prove me wrong and show up on the floor for the final 26 games or at some point during the rest of the regular season, because I want this team to win and to win big. It's been a season from hell in a lot of ways for this team. So something positive needs to happen, and hopefully it's in the form of those dudes coming back at some point to make a playoff run. But no, I stand on 100% of the business that I say.
It's like the reality of the situation is like they're very banged up. They traded for a couple guys in AD and Martin that AD played 2 quarters or 3 quarters or whatever and hasn't played since. Martin hasn't played. PJ's been out. They have no centers. It's tough.
Yeah, it's tough.
Like it's just they're in a very tough situation.
Yeah,
so I think it's perfectly reasonable to be like, just to say like, wow, this sucks.
Yeah,
it's pretty.
Like, I don't want it to be this way. I do not want it to be this way at all. I would much rather be talking about.
This is the official podcast of Derek Lively.
That's right. Like we love some Derek Lively on this show.
I miss that guy so much.
This was very likely to be a wasted season before the Luka trade, especially as we watch Luka in LA right now. And this is not a player.
Been tough too, man.
Yeah, he does not look good right now. He does not look good at all. And so him coming back was not necessarily the recipe that was going to save the season. Butterfly effect. Who knows if Daniel Gafford gets injured? Maybe he's still out there. You know, a lot could be different. But Derek Lively's injury was going to be Derek Lively's injury, and this team was going to struggle. It was going to be really tough. I mean, this was already a cursed season from hell when it came to the injuries, and it might have been something that Dallas was just eking into the play-in tournament, and whether it's Anthony Davis returning for a play-in game or it's the team that they had and Luka's in charge, but Derek Lively's only been back for a week. It's really hard to win a championship when you're in the play-in. Point blank, it's never been done before. Obviously, play-in is still very new. We've seen Miami go, but it's so hard. It was hard last season when Dallas didn't have home court advantage in any round of the playoffs. Very likely to be a wasted season, no matter what had happened. But the stakes are obviously different when you shorten your window and when you have an older team. It's also very frustrating, and there's been a couple times this frustration has come out from me, and I've probably been a little bit too pessimistic. I want to see how good this team is, and it's really hard for me to do analysis and to enjoy watching a team when their big new star, it's hard to know how he's going to fit. And I do think that's going to have a result on the front office this summer, as we talked about earlier in the show. I think Nico Harrison, his best work, a lot of his best moves have been reacting to what he sees on the court. I do think there's a lot of scenarios where if this team could actually play together, that they could be a title contender next year. I don't think they are this year, even if they're fully healthy. I don't think they quite have enough. I could be wrong, and I could change my tune if they're actually playing games right now, but they're not playing games right now. They're not going to get a real stretch of games to play together unless it just all comes together in the play-in tournament, and then they win their play-in tournament games, and then they get a first-round matchup that isn't the Thunder. Maybe they have a chance against the Thunder. I don't think they do. I don't think that they would beat the Thunder. I think they match up pretty well against the Thunder. I don't think they're quite cohesive enough. I don't think they're quite there to expect them to do that. Also, you don't know which, Anthony Davis could return and Derek Lively could be rolled out for the year. There's too many scenarios. So that's basically where I'm at, and the frustrations of what very possibly was going to be a wasted season only amplified about everything that has happened. It just makes it does make it difficult. And I think that's why there's so much, division with Mavs fans, because, it's not just the fallout from the trade, it's the fallout from everything else as well.
We will be back tomorrow here on the DLLS Mavs pregame show, kicking off at 6:45 p.m. as the Mavericks tip off with the New Orleans Pelicans at the AAC at 7:30 p.m. as they resume their schedule to begin the final 26 games of this regular season. We will have our postgame show 15 minutes after the final buzzer tomorrow. Again, our pregame show will begin at 6:45 p.m. right here on DLLS Sports. Big day for us here at DLLS Sports as well, with the Four Nations tournament final between Canada and the United States of America.
We got postgame coming for that. Not us.
Yeah, right.
You don't want to hear us talk about hockey.
No,
right?
not from us, but from our DLLS Stars podcast. So make sure you tune in immediately following tonight's Four Nations tournament final between the USA and Canada, a much anticipated final. I'm looking forward to watching that myself tonight, this evening. So again, we appreciate all of you joining us here. Appreciate our producer Tanner for making us look good and sound good as always. Appreciate having him back as well. For our national NBA insider Marc Stein, that's our Mavericks analyst Bobby Carella. That is our Mavericks beat writer Tim Cato. I'm your host Kevin Gray. We are DLLS Mavs. We'll talk to you tomorrow at 6:45 p.m. right here on DLLS Sports. Y'all be good. Peace.
all silly like the mayor.